Okay, Shalom. Really big subject, something I've covered many times before. However, I've not linked it into the Gospels ever, this concept. So we're going to be looking at the Prince of the World, the slave who rules as a king, looking at from the perspective of the Torah, the Gospels, the Talmud and the Zohar. So let's dive straight in and have a look at what's written in the Zohar. Okay. So there's this concept within Judaism, let me bring you on board. So this concept that's found in the Gospels, concept of the Prince of the World, is found also in Judaism. As I've talked about a lot, it's a concept of Metatron, Prince of the World, or Metatron Sar HaOlam. And it's heavily connected to Moshe, because the initial letters of Metatron Sar HaOlam is Moshe. However, this is when we are in immature states of spiritual maturity, when we need a guardian over us, because we have not yet attained our full spiritual status as people who should ultimately be able to emulate the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh in truth, and have full restored rectified knowledge of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh in order to be able to do that. We've got to be as Mashiach on the earth, we've got to be as Moshe, we've got to be as Yeshua, and until we get there, we've got this guardian over us. So there's a dual purpose to that. On the one hand, it's like an angel that guides us on the way through our wandering to maturity, our desert wandering. But then we get to the stage before we get to the end of our, where we reached a higher level of maturity, where we actually need to fight and rebel against this thing that's actually restricting us and limiting us from reaching our full potential. And our potential doesn't come until we fight against that. It's like a chick that gets to maturity. It needs to break out of the shell that confines it. Or even a baby bird in a nest. You've got to fledge yourself. You've got to kick against that environment that's nurtured you up until a point, but then you reach a certain point of maturity, and that thing that has sustained you is going to be the death of you if you don't fight against it and get to the next level. You know, a chick can't stay in an egg forever. It will putrefy with its head stuck against its own chest. You know, so you've got to understand when you reach a spiritual level, there's a purpose for something up until a point, a necessary evil. These are all the heads of the clipper of all the religions serve that purpose. They're there to protect you in your state of spiritual immaturity. But once you grow and once you mature, you need to fight against that same force that's protected you. And this is what Metatron, Prince of the World, is. So in one way, they're like the angel of the Lord, but they also then become our sparring partner. And it's in fighting against this force, this limitation force, this guardian, and becoming who you really truly are spiritually, that is, it elevates you from it's a difference spiritually between Yaakov and Yisrael. You're literally fighting Satan. You know, this is why the gematria of Yisrael, 541, is Yaakov plus Satan, because you fought against this force, Metatron, that on the one hand is Michael, on the other hand is Satan. You know, so let's read first what's in this Zohar and link this into all these concepts to be found. When we attain the status of Mashiach, this force is nowhere to be found on the earth, because us being ourselves as Mashiach takes over the running of the entire of creation. We then just co-workers with Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. And there's no intermediary whatsoever. There's no separation, there's no veil. We're just being ourselves, and we are doing the job that Metatron is given to do, until we reach that place of maturity where we can take over. So this is from Bereshith 273. It says, the woman who has both pure blood and impure blood of menstruation comes from the aspect of Mishnah. So this is the oral Torah, which is imposed upon him. Thus she is not the spouse, his union, because there can be no union before the mixed multitude is eliminated from the world. So this is the Erev Rav. The Erev Rav is basically the 5 aspects of the serpent that's opposite the 5 aspects of the Mashiach, and those 5 aspects of the Mashiach represent the 5 aspects of the name of Yod He Wawi, the tip of the Yod Mashiach ben Yosef, the body of the Yod Mashiach ben David, the He, the Vav and the He, that's Moshe, Yaakov and Rachel, or Sarach bat Asher. It just depends which aspect you're looking at. It says, so these are the 5 aspects of the Erev Rav, which spell Negara, evil plague. Talked about this a lot. The Nephilim, the Gibborim, the Anakim, the Rephaim and the Amalekim. So these are definitely mixed into the children of Israel at this time. They came out of Egypt with us, and they've been there ever since, and they've got to go through a rectification. And until they go through that rectification, they cause us to descend. The final aspect that's got to be clarified between the Erev Rav is the power that they have to take us back into a place of chaos, tohu v'bohu. So they've got an incredible power to draw us back, to cause us to descend. Where are we now? We're in Edomite exile. We have descended. It means we're lower than the spiritual status that we should be. We've got to fight against this power to cause us to descend back into chaos and learn to defeat it, and that will, to defeat this evil, to overcome this serpent, this clipper that is infiltrated all the main religions, all the Abrahamic faiths. Why is it infiltrated them all? Because the children of Israel are part of all those religions. There's the Jewish people, obviously, part of Bnei Israel. There's the lost house of Yosef in both Christianity and in Islam, as I've pointed out. The Taliban, the Pashtun tribe, a lot of the Arab people are actually from Israelite descent. So we've got to eliminate this influence, and it's more strongly within Judaism. It's more strongly mixed in within Judaism. Okay, so there can be no union, no true marriage before the mixed multitude is eliminated from the world. We should have had a bigger wake-up call than what we did with COVID, because that is the Neger Ra, that's the initial letters, the evil plague. People did wake up, by the way. People started to wake up from a spiritual slumber and start to look for a lot of truth. And you don't need to look far to see just the extent to which the mixed multitude, these evil Erev Rav, have influenced throughout all of the world. It's a big force to fight. And it's connected to Metatron, Prince of the World. Moshe was buried outside of the Holy Land. His burial was in the hands of the Mishnah, oral Torah. No one knows the location of his grave to this day. Burial means concealment. So this has been hidden for us. Okay, this has been hidden from us purposefully. Why? Because we need that strength to overcome the concealment to become who we are meant to be, i.e. Mashiach. Whereas the resurrection of the dead is revelation. So Moshe was concealed and buried outside the land because of the dominion of the Mishnah in the world. So the Mishnah connected to the mixed multitude, connected to Metatron, as we're going to say. So this is why no one can know his burial site until the day of the end of correction. Okay, he's buried in Jerusalem. The Gematria points to that, but I've talked about that before. At the end of resurrection of the dead, Moshe will be revealed together with the 2 messiahs. He being buried, the concealing of the soul of Moshe comes from the power of the Mishnah. So this is the oral Torah, the Talmud that came out of that, which rules over the queen, who is called the Kabbalah, the true Kabbalah tradition Moshe received. So this is the esoteric teachings, okay, that I've talked about before. The secret teachings within Judaism have been hijacked by 2 foreign concepts, one being Metatron. The truth regarding Metatron has become basically Gnosticism and dualism. Because you've got this concept that's been adopted from Greek philosophy called Ein Sof, the unknowable God, and as a consequence of calling the God of the Torah an unknowable God, Ein Sof, which is basically just straight adoption from Neoplatonism, by calling God an unknowable God when it is his entire will, the entire will of creation to make himself known. So you've adopted an out-and-out lie. So you tell people God is totally unknowable, he's totally infinite, he's totally ungraspable, nobody can know him, despite his will being to make himself known. Then you've got to have something to represent that aspect of him that is knowable. And the aspect that is knowable has become Metatron. So they've taken what is a Torah-based concept and they've made it into something that it's not. So they've added to the role of Metatron so that it's just basically the entire experience of God, of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh in this world. They've made Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, who wants to be known, unknowable, and then replaced that bit that we know and experience and perceive and feel with this concept Metatron. So the face of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh is Metatron. The voice of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh is Metatron. The presence of his Shekinah is Metatron. They've just expanded. So we're not experiencing God at all. According to Judaism, we are experiencing an angel pretending to be God. This is Judaism today, because you see, God of Judaism is Ein Sof, an unknowable God. Look it up. And a handmaid that is heir to her mistress alludes to the Mishnah, Metatron's wife, and a fool when he is filled with meat is the mixed multitude whose members are called foolish people and unwise. So this is all what we've got to look at, because you see this false God, or this false concept, there's some truth in it. There's some truth, because there's a concept of the angel of the Lord. It's in the Torah, it's got to be truth. It's how we start to define it in truth. Okay, so you've got this oral Torah that is the wife of the Mishnah. This is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. This is going to keep you in a state of descended consciousness. If we want true consciousness, we've got to attach to the tree of life. We've got to know Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. We've got to be attached to that that's going to reveal Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, i.e. the true Mashiach, Moshe, the two Messiahs. They've got to all come together. This is resurrection from the dead. Why are they dead? Because they've been buried in all these lies, this concealment. The concept of the true Mashiach has been hidden from us. So we've got this false Mashiach, and it's like the Messiah has the same gematria as Nachash, serpent. There's a reason why, because most of us have false knowledge of God, because we've got a false concept of the Messiah. The Messiah represents the aspect of revelation that is da'ath, knowledge of God. Through the Messiah we know Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. We know his sovereignty, we know his oneness. The true concept of Messiah reveals this. So in Judaism, what do? They deny the true Messiah, which is Yeshua. There's no unity between Moshe and Yeshua. So and without that unity, there's no revelation of King David. There's no revelation of the final Mashiach, Mashiach ben Dawid. So all this is concealed. Because guess what they've got there instead? The inner secret dimension of the Torah is supposed to be Mashiach ben Yosef. The filling out of Sod, secret, this is the level of interpreting the Torah through the secrets. The hidden dimension of the Torah comes to 566. Sod filled out, 566, the exact gematria of Mashiach ben Yosef. Vilna Gaon points this out. So we've got to, instead what we got there, in the secret inner teachings of the Torah, the main dominant concepts are Metatron and Ein Sof. This is a false Messiah. This is a false knowledge. This is why there's no name revealed. Without Mashiach, there's no name. So it's all one, because he comes in his name. Blessed is he who comes in the name. So we've got to start to understand this concept a lot more clearly than what we do. It's and the fighting against this is what gives us the power and the strength to transition from Yaakov to Yisrael. It's that fighting through the night of exile with all these forces. This is really wicked, by the way. We're talking really wicked stuff. Like what went on in COVID was for all of us to see just how the level of evil that we're dealing with. It's no joke anymore. It's the entire world over. So we've got to step up now, and we've got to understand these things as we're going to be defeated by them. The truth is what empowers us to overcome this. Attain and Methli Yaakov, give truth to Yaakov. Yaakov needs the truth. What truth? Oh, Joseph Chai. He needs the truth about Yeshua HaMashiach, because that's Yosef. He needs to be shown that Yosef is alive. What does Yosef represent? He represents the upper revelation of the name. If Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, that's what he came to reveal to us. That needs to be united with the concept of Moshe, the Torah of Moshe. Instead, we've got all this there, blurring everything up. And we've got a lot of false concepts of Mashiach that's stopping us from having true knowledge of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. So we're basically under a slave. We literally, most people who think that they're serving Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh are actually under a slave who rules instead of a king. Okay? And we're just getting a wretch who is sated with food. This is because we're just deluded by Erev Rav influence and we don't even know it. Right, so let's go and have a look at the concept of Metatron from a slightly healthier perspective. That's taken from the Zohar. The Zohar's not got that much nice to say about Metatron, by the way. Sometimes it'll tell you correct concept, but then sometimes it's giving you a lot of indication. This is the true Kabbalist. The true Kabbalah is giving you in a lot of indication. You see, this concept of Metatron shouldn't really be there. And you've got to there's a lot of jigsaw pieces to put together. Right, so this is something got to get very clear, because the concept of the Prince of the World can take you down a road that makes you believe there's a power other than Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. So you've got to always clarify this as well. It's such a big evil phenomena that in your mind you can start to think there's actually a threat to the oneness and sovereignty and authority of the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. This is going to be a big mistake. And fighting against these forces, you start to understand the depth of evil and the influence. You got to go against people who are totally and utterly under this slave master, and they would kill you. I mean, literally, we're living in a world with people who are religious to the point where they would kill somebody who's actually speaking the true Mashiach, the true revelation of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. We are living in a reality where that is the case. So you've got to understand the evil that you're fighting, but you've got to always stay focused on the reality that there's only Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, nothing else beside him. And when you're going up against this Prince of the World and this evil and its influence, these people are going to defend their position with their life. They've been trained to be that good a slave. Okay, so you need to know how to speak to people that would kill you for criticising their God that is just actually Satan, an aspect of Satan. Right, so what you've got to remember is there's only Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. There's a reason why Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh has put us up against this force, for us to find out just how incredibly awesome we are actually made, because we have got the potential to defeat it. And when we know we've got the potential to defeat this force in the world, that helps us to be who we are. And through us knowing the truth with you about Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, we know our true selves. We know our true purpose. And this strengthens us to know that we can defeat a force such as the Prince of the World, especially when we see just the degree of his evil. You've got to always bear in mind that ultimately Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh desired us to go against this force and to defeat it, for us to realise our own strength. So let's have a look at this from a positive aspect, from a Torah-based aspect in a way. For Matat's name is like that of his masters, as it is written, because my name is in him. Okay, so Metatron comes to a gematria 314, which the name of God associated with that is Shaddai. And I'm going to point out why it's not Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. It's that the name that within him is not Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. Why do we know that? Well, we get to the verse when it says, obey him, because my name is within him, he will not forgive you. If he had the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh within him, he'd have the power to forgive. So we know it's not the name Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh that's within him, as he would be able to forgive. He can't forgive. His name is Shaddai. We've got the name Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh within us. This is the difference. This is the lower unification. In other words, the Holy One, blessed be he, clothes himself in Metatron, during the 6 days of the week, and rules the world through him. This is from Rabbi Nachman. This is a brilliant clarification, by the way, because, like I say, you can be thinking about this force to such a degree that you actually perceive that there's a force that can compete with Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh himself. This goes back to the story of the Pardes. Rabbi Akiva ascending into the orchard, and with the other four of them that ascended, and only one came back in Shalom, entered in Shalom and came back in Shalom. The others went crazy or became a heretic and things like that. Why? Because they confronted the concept of Metatron. They literally confronted the concept of Metatron. They went into the depth of the Torah interpretation. You have to confront Metatron. Okay? If you want to know Torah, you've got to confront this concept. You're not going to know true Torah until you do. So they went up into the Pardes, the four aspects of the Torah, the Peshat, literal interpretation. This is what Pardes stands for. It stands for the orchard, but it's the four ways we interpret Torah: the literal interpretation, the remez, the hints, the drosh, the parables, and then the sod, the secret. So the four went up and they had confronted Metatron, and I've told before why I think Rabbi Akiva could understand the concept better than other people, because he was able to discern something regarding the Aramaic text. Angels can't speak Aramaic. They don't know Aramaic, they know Hebrew. But in and amongst some of the Torah, there's Aramaic words. So he was writing, and he must have written something that Rabbi Akiva was able to understand. He wrote that word from the Torah in Hebrew, when in the Torah it's written in Aramaic. It points to that in the Talmud. There's very subtle hints that you've got to pick up. You've got to know certain things in order to figure out this whole concept. It's actually incredible that in the Talmud that we're going to be looking at today, in context to that, it talks about the language that Adam spoke was Aramaic. There's all reasons why certain prayers in the Siddur in Aramaic, because the angels can't block them. They don't understand these words. Okay, Yeshua spoke in Aramaic. You got to ask why. So this is the lower unification. In other words, the Holy One, blessed be he, clothes himself in Matat during the 6 days of the week and rules the world through him. Rabbi Nachman. Like I said, this is a dangerous concept to understand, because only Rabbi Akiva came back. You know, one died, one cut off the shoots, and one became like a heretic and things like that. It's a very, very, very famous story. It's the story that teaches the Jews to avoid going into Kabbalah, the Kabbalistic teachings. Why? Because guess what's in there? Ein Sof and Metatron. If they knew what was in the actual secret inner meaning of the Torah, they would come across problems. And this is why they've got to learn the entire Torah, the entire Talmud, the entire this, the entire that. They can't start studying till they're 40. They've basically got to be the best slave possible. You know, they've got to be so ingrained in that slavery that these secret teachings then regarding this are not going to disturb them too much. They're too set in their ways. That's the way I interpret it anyway. There's probably a much more positive interpretation to it, like maybe they can handle the concept without becoming all those things that we've spoken about. So this is another way of looking at it. So like I say, Rabbi Nachman, he says, Matat during the 6 days of the week rules the world through him. Who is it? The Holy One, blessed be he. there's different aspects of this, okay? So we've got to understand what aspect of Yod-Heh-Waw, because he's talking about the Holy One, blessed be He, clothes himself in Matat during 6 days of the week and rules the world through him. You got to distinguish between the name as revealed through Moshe, the letter of the Torah, and the name revealed through Yeshua above the letter of the Torah. The Holy One, blessed be He, is the concept of the name revealed within the letter of the Torah. Okay. This is not the name as revealed to Yeshua, because he revealed a higher level. And he revealed it was such a high level that in terms of spirituality, that level becomes the groom, and the bride of the groom, the true marriage of the Lamb, is when this level that's closed up in the 6 days of the week, the level of the name revealed to Moshe becomes the bride. This is why the Torah of Moshe is so important, because we keep the true Torah of Moshe and we become the bride of the groom. That is that higher level of revelation of his name. That's why we've got to unite the concept of Yosef, Yeshua and Moshe together, because to the Jewish people who only know this level of reality, who only know the level of the name revealed through the letter of the Torah, they've not experienced that higher revelation of his name. So to them, this is the man. But the Zohar tells us when that cause of causes is revealed, this that is the man to the Jewish people becomes the bride, because it's the higher level of name flows into the lower level of the name. So this name flows into the Jewish people and sustains the Jewish people. So it's male and female is determined by whether it's a giver or receiver. So for the Jews, this is the name that they receive from. But there's a higher level of revelations where this name becomes the vessel. It becomes the bride to the higher level of revelation, which was revealed through Yeshua. So it all turns around. What is the Holy One? The Holy One, blessed be He, at one level. This level that we're talking about, the 6 days of the week, becomes the bride of the master of the Shabbat, which is the revelation of the higher name of Yod-Heh-Waw. Okay, that's revealed in the book of Micah rather than the book of Exodus. So there's only Yod-Heh-Waw, whether it's at this level or the other level, but they do need uniting. That's the going back to that first verse, what I've read from the Bereshit. It talks about there's no union until we get rid of that force that brings separation between the higher revelation of his name and the lower revelation of his name, that ultimately becomes the bride. And we, by doing the Torah in truth, become the bride of the master of the Shabbat. Okay, it's in Zohar. It's written very clearly in Zohar. I've mentioned it before. So Shabbat is on a much higher level of holiness than the weekdays. It is completely holy with the negative forces. So this is the level of Yeshua. This is the name as revealed through Yeshua at the level of Shabbat, the holy Yechida. These are the levels of soul of Adam when he fell. So he's got to work during the 6 days in order to get to that soul level of Shabbat. Okay, it is completely holy. That's why Yeshua was called perfect. With the negative forces and qualities of bad, evil, falsehood, etc., having no place therein. What did Yeshua say when he says about the prince? The word says, no part of me. It's no part of me. He weren't trapped in this revelation of the 6 days, where Yod-Heh-Waw is clothed up in Metatron, the slave master. He was at the level of Shabbat. His soul was at the level of Shabbat. In fact, higher than that. He had the highest level of soul possible. He was an incarnation of the name of Yod-Heh-Waw, where it's filled out to the gematria of 45, which is Adam. He was the final Adam. This is not true of the weekdays. During the 6 days of the week, a mixture of good and evil, false and true, etc. predominates. Similarly, God is, so to speak, completely holy. Rulership of the world on Shabbat is entirely under his jurisdiction and domain. That's why we've got to attach to the Shabbat. However, during the weekdays, God clothes himself in an angel, metat, and this is written about in Yevamot 16b, the Tosafot, to that Zohar 1:126a. Through him, God rules the world, not directly and openly, but indirectly through a veil. We veil him because we're not ready to be our true selves. It's like when Moshe came down the mountain with the light, the hidden Aganus shining through his face. They didn't want to see it because they weren't ready, because it was contaminated. They just built the golden calf. They didn't want to take the responsibility of being themselves in the truest sense possible. They wanted somebody to do it for them. Okay, so it's not because God will reveal himself to us where we're at. So if you want an intermediary, God will give you an intermediary. Until you're ready to be yourself, till you've matured spiritually and you don't want that veil, or you don't want somebody guarding over you, you will have God in disguise into a certain degree. You've got to fight your own immaturity. You've got to want to be yourself more than have an intermediary act for you and do it all for you. So this distancing from absolute holiness allows for the appearance of a creation separate from him and even devoid of God, which ultimately what provides man the free will to serve God of his own volition. That's again Rabbi Nachman, which I think is good. So what ultimately clothes Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh? Our own evil choice. We got free choice. We choose to be something other than emulate his name. That's the ultimate evil. Because you see, we were created to be emulators of his name. We were created in his image, and through our evil free choice we choose to do everything other than that. We choose to create religions. We choose to serve slaves instead of the king. We choose we choose to be something other than the full potential to be people emulating his name, to represent his name and his authority and his oneness and his sovereignty on earth as it is in heaven. We forsake all that for what? Well, you're satisfied with food, aren't you? You know, you're under the influence of the Erev Rav. You're like a wretch that is sated with food from where? Well, from Metatron's table. And that's just like scraps. But people stick to that because they get something out of it. We've got to break through that delusion. We've got to really yearn to be close to Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh and not settle for anything other than that. We've got to restore our knowledge as well. We can't just keep accepting the lies that we continually fed through these religions. So this is another one, and I got this off this. This is a really good website called the 13 Petaled Rose. There's a very famous book called the 13 Petaled Rose that's worth a read. But the 13 Petaled Rose is a concept that is actually the beginning of the Zohar. Very interesting concept. The 13 Petaled Rose stands for Knesset Yisrael, but round that it says it's got 5 strong leaves. Those 5 strong leaves represent the 5 aspects of Mashiach that surround the 13 petaled rose. If you haven't got those 5 strong leaves, which represent the hand, by the way, the right hand that holds the cup of blessing, okay, if you haven't got those 5 strong leaves, you're going to have aspects of the Erev Rav, you know. You're going to have a cup of divination, basically the magic. You've got something else there instead. So Memtet, the reason why they say Memtet, they don't pronounce the name Metatron in Judaism, but that isn't even his name. That Memtet comes from the concept of the angel of the Lord that guides us along the way, And in Aramaic, that the way is related to the word memtet. So it's connected to the angel that guides us on the way, but it's not his actual name. The actual name is Yaohel, which is Eliyahu. It's an anagram of Eliyahu. So Memtet rules over God's entire universe, not just here on the planet. We should be ruling over the entire universe. We were created for that. Through Mashiach, we should have restored knowledge of Yod-Heh-Waw and to know through that who we are. So he's there. Instead, we should be there. Thus, when Melech Mashiach comes, he will be Memtet incarnate. Okay, so this is quite complicated because this goes back to something that the Vilna Gaon says. I think that's something that could be really badly misinterpreted. What I think it is that there's Metatron really is the 6 supernal days, but not quite, because obviously these are very phenomenal spiritual realities, the 6 supernal days of creation. But he has some kind of association with those 6 days. By the way, the 6 days are represented by the 6 alephs. Okay, in the first verse of Bereshith bara Elohim et hashemayim v'et haaretz, there's 6 alephs in there representing the 6 days of creation. Aleph spent out comes to 111. 6 times 111, representing the 6 days, is 666. That's who you're up against. You know, this is the force of concealment, the sitro. And even Yod-Heh-Waw tells us in Psalms about his hiding place, his sitro. Sitro, hiding place, also comes to 666. It's also related to the book of Esther. Esther and Sitro, Esther means hidden. Sitro means hiding place. Hashem's hiding place. So they're all connected. Hashem hides in this until we are ready to be like Mashiach. Because there is only Yod-Heh-Waw. It says, as such he will serve as God's regent, Memtet incarnate. So Moshe was the 6 days incarnate. He was the 6 working days. He represented the 6 working days. Yeshua's much higher. He represents the 7th day, the Shabbat. King David, however, represents the 8th day, the world to come. Okay, complete rectification. Where we become, where we get our thoroughly rectified bodies. So this Memtet represents 666. That's what I'm saying. When it's linked to the 6 working days of creation, we got to defeat this force. As such, he will serve as God's regent over the entire universe. Not Memtet as in the 666, the Sitro. Once we have overcome this force, we attain the level of Mashiach. Like just as I said, Yaakov. If you take the gematria of Yaakov, which is 182, and add that to that Satan, 359, it comes to 541. Yisrael who contended with men and God. Gods, it actually says, Elohim, gods, plural. Which gods? Well, primarily Memtet in all his false gods. He appears in many false gods. He's a veil. Needs to be brought down. It's probably connected to why the veil split at the crucifixion. It's all connected. What was on those veils? The cheruvim, which again in Judaism, the cheruvim are connected to the concept of Memtet. The cheruvim were all throughout the temple. They weren't just on the curtains. They opened up the Holy of Holies. What was there? The ark with the cheruvim on it. What's stopping us from getting to the tree of life? The cherubim. The cherubim. What was the big olive wood statues in the Holy of Holies? Cherubim. We've got to get beyond that. These are temples that were destroyed. We've got to see beyond that veil. And just as Yod-Heh-Waw, he sits on the mercy seat between the 2 cherubim, the 2 opposites, there's all kinds of phenomena that you've got to start to take into consideration. It says, as such, he will serve as God's regent over the entire universe. This is talking about Mashiach, Melech Mashiach, who will be Memta incarnate. He won't be Memta incarnate, it will be the supernal days incarnate. So Moshe was the 6 working days, supernal days. Yeshua was the 7th day, the Shabbat. King David is the 8th day, so it's connected to the days. The 7th day is 777, isn't it? What's King David then? If Aleph is 1 day, and that comes to 111, 6 days are 666, 7 days are 777, 8 days are 888. That is the spelling out of Hamoshiach to the first filling. Hamoshiach is 888. We've got to get to that level of revelation. We've got to get beyond the 6 days. We've even got to get beyond the concept of the Shabbat. That's why Yeshua says he's got to come again. He's got to come again as the 888. So it's all connected to the incarnate in these supernal days and what they mean. Mashiach will be to Hashem what Yosef was to Pharaoh in Egypt. Thus, we see that the role and authority of Mashiach is not merely limited to this world. That's from Ariel Bar Zadok. But this is all taken from this website, 13 Petal Rose. I think what this guy has got to say about the concept of Metatron is very, very useful. He's a believer in Yeshua, by the way, but he's got a very good understanding of the Kabbalah as well. You just have to be careful. You just have to be careful because, like I say, Metatron is a two-edged sword, or there's aspects to him. He's a necessary evil. He's necessary in order to allow us to grow spiritually. Like when we're very, very spiritually weak, you do need a guardian over you. You need to be told what to do. You need to learn. You need a system that's going to, like a womb, if you like, allow you to develop. But then you've got to allow yourself to be born. You've got to allow the day to dawn. This is what happened to Yaakov. And then that whole experience, fighting and wrestling against the forces of Satan, helped him become who he ultimately was, Israel. Like Joseph, it was only being sold into Pharaoh's, it's only been sold into Egypt that allowed Joseph to become who he truly was. Okay? And also, it reveals the divine providence of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, that his hand in everything. His hand is in absolutely everything. Even that's the concealment, like Baal Shem Tov said regarding this whole concept of the Aleph. The Aleph conceals Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. But at the same token, Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh is called the Lufo Shel Olam, master of the universe. What does Aleph also mean? It means master, Alufo. But what were all the chiefs of Edom called? They were all called Alufo. So you can get two different sides to it. You've got to, for everything holy, there's an unholy opposite. Right, so now this is where it gets interesting. This is when we're going to start looking at the what's written in the New Testament, because it links into some. This is when you can start to get a lot more depth to what was written in the Gospels and see how perfect it actually is, because it's linked to some powerful concepts that unless you know the depth of what's there, you might miss it. Okay, you've got to understand when Yeshua says, when I go away, the Prince of the world will come. Why when he goes away, does the Prince of the world come? But what else comes as well? We've got to understand all these, why everything happens in a certain way. So this is it written in Greek, isn't it? Prince of this world, and this is the gematria. So we are going to be having a look at this gematria. It's actually related up here to the verse in Joel 2:25, and I will repay you for the years that the increasing locust, the nibbling locust, the finishing locust, and the shearing locust have devoured my great army which I sent against you. Okay, we have to defeat all that, by the way, just as we've got to defeat the Prince of the world. We'll see that. I just want to first go and have a look at the concept of this prince of the world in the Gospels, because it's very, very interesting. And I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding with actually what we're dealing with regarding it, and people don't even understand just to what degree they are subject to this authority, to this slave who rules as a king. You know, and you need to start to waken up. Where are you? Where are you in your spiritual understanding and maturity? You know, would you be able to take the prince of the world down based on the knowledge of Yod Heh Waw that you currently have? And if the answer is no, you need to get more knowledge, because things are speeding up. You see, we all had COVID. We all had COVID to contend with. The evil is being revealed. And we've got to have something that's more powerful than what is being revealed. And you don't need to be a genius to figure out there's a lot of evil. And we've got to step up, because this evil needs to be defeated for us to be all that we can be. So we've got to really start to look into this. Quite an interesting thing from this Prince of the World. It comes to 3,121, which is the 446th prime number from 1, and that equals Ha'emeth, the truth. You see, to defeat this, you need the truth. Not your Roman Catholic version of the truth, which is Jesus Christ Superstar, which is none other than the Prince of the World himself. You need the real truth. Od Yosef Chai, Yosef is still alive. And the whole concept of the Mashiach ben Yosef rooted back to the Torah of Moshe in truth. This is what's going to empower Yaakov to defeat Satan and all his lies. Right, let's go and have a look in the Gospels then. Okay, so this is, it's not actually the phrase Prince of the World, but it's similar. This is from Ephesians 2:2. I've brought this page up because you can go to this, I think it's this one here, Treasury of Scripture Knowledge. Go on to Ephesians 2. This Bible Hub is absolutely brilliant, by the way. I really recommend it. But you can go into this section up here, which is Treasury of Scripture Knowledge, and it's going to give you all the verses that are connected to the concept, some of the concepts within this particular verse. And I think it gives you a link. I was looking through this thinking this is quite interesting, because this is looking at it from different dimensions. So there's Ephesians 2:2, in which you used to walk when you conform to the ways of the world and the ruler of the power of the air, the spirit who is now at work in the sons of disobedience. So I just pointed this out first. So if you want to go and have a look at a broader context to this, I suggest going on here, putting in Ephesians 2:2, and then bringing up this TSK, which stands for Treasury Scripture Knowledge. So then you can go just get a depth. You can go into this concept and see how it's linked into other concepts that are related. It's related to Satan. You know, it's basically related to Satan, but that's not the whole story with the Prince of the World, is it? Because there's an aspect of him that is a guardian angel. So you've got to understand the both aspects of it. It's only evil when we reach a place of maturity, when this shell oppresses us and causes us all the problems that we see in this world now, all the deaths that come as a consequence of religion, because we are trapped by this evil perspective in our own narrow perspective. Exile, what does exile mean? It means, what does Pharaoh mean? It means a constriction, like it's like related to the concept of the neck. You've got your head, which should flow freely, but it's like you've got a constriction of the neck, so the wisdom don't flow down into your body. It's a narrow perspective. It's a self-centered perspective. All religions create a self-centered perspective. You want to be free, you're going to have to step out of those religions and look at the bigger picture. You want to know Yod-Heh-Wawi is not just appeared to a certain people. What you see, find in religion, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. It gets more cultic. It does it in Judaism. I mean, as a classic, you've got all even the Hasidic sects. It started off as Baal Shem Tov, and then it was this branch of Hasidism, this branch, and this branch of Judaism, and then this branch, and they're all doing their own traditions, and same way as in Christianity. You get all these different sects and cults, and they get smaller and smaller because they see everybody else as more and more evil. So we just have to stick together in our little holy huddle. I hope you can see how disempowered you are when you take that stand. Because you're basically essentially saying God is here and not there. That's why we're not there. Anything you can point at and say God is, there is God, or there is not God, is idol worship. God is everywhere. And unless you can see him in everything and everywhere, it's not Yod-Heh-Wawi that you're seeing. It's your own false interpretation of God. It's been blinded by the prince of the world, your own lack of knowledge. So it's always good to get a broader perspective and step outside of yourself, because that's where it's at, by the way. The narrow perspective. This is why we need Yosef, because he had the bigger picture. He had the broader perspective. He had the good interpretation. He could see things clearly from a more objective position, and that's always helpful. Right, so Ephesians, let's go and have a look at it in context. I'm definitely not an expert on the Gospels. I was a long time away from it. I'm only just coming back to it, so this is all new to me. I've understood the concept of Mashiach ben Yosef and Yeshua primarily and only through the Torah. It took me a long time to even start to read the Gospels again, because all I could see was the contradiction. It's only when you got to get to a place of being firmly rooted in the Torah that you can then go back and interpret this properly, as far as I'm aware. Right, so Ephesians 2:2, and you were dead in your trespasses and sins. Okay, so that's what are trespasses and sins defined by? The Torah, the commandments of the Torah. The ultimate revelation of the Torah of Moshe is the name that we are supposed to emulate, that was revealed to Moshe in the cleft of the rock at the giving of the Torah, when it passed him by. And he could see, and the sages say, what passed him by, when he shouted out, Adonai, Adonai, or Yod-Heh-Wawi, Yod-Heh-Wawi, El Rachum V'Chanun, and all the 13 attributes of mercy as they went past. He saw the image or the glory of one who would perfectly emulate those attributes of his name. Okay? And likewise in Yeshua, we have been given the perfect example of one who emulates the name. How we should be. We've been given a living example of how you want to know Torah, you want to know what Torah is, you want to know what pleases me. You see this guy here? This is what pleases me. But instead we don't talk about emulating his name. We don't talk about that. We talk about Easter and Christmas, and we've separated him off from the concept of the Torah of Moshe, and it's just a big religious mess. And separated him off, the master of the Shabbat, from the Shabbat itself, the true Shabbat. So, and you were dead in your trespasses and sins, in which you used to walk when you conformed to the ways of this world, and the ruler of the power of the air, the spirit who is now at work in the sons of disobedience. People who can't be bothered, Eriv Rav influence, who can't be bothered to do what is, who can't be bothered to take up the mantle, basically, and imitate and emulate those attributes of mercy for themselves. So they'll create any tradition of men to distract them and keep them busy. Oh, we're just doing this instead. We're doing Torah and Mitzvah. You're not doing nothing except from trying to earn your own reward in your master's Metatron, the 6 working days. You're just keeping yourself busy, trying to earn your own reward and avoid punishment for your own sense of self, for your own disobedience, according to rules you've made up for yourself. You know, we're supposed to be emulating his name. We're supposed to be like Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh is only faithful to his name, by the way. He's not faithful to anything else. That means when we on earth are like him, in our finite capacity, he in his infinite capacity matches us. That means he can bring a blessing of his infinite capacity of his name down into this world. We need that. We don't need the world to be full of people slaving away, serving a slave master. That isn't even Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, by the way, to try and earn their own reward. That's going to restrict that blessing, you know. We need to open up the channels of blessing between heaven and earth. We need the light of his name, the infinite capacity of his light. We need his blessing of his name to come down onto earth. The only way, the only thing that can draw that down ultimately is people who are like him, because he is faithful only to his own name. He don't depart. He's not serving something else. He's not serving our sin. He tolerates it as part of his name. He tolerates it, says he's long-suffering. But so he sustains us in a way, but only to a bare minimum, until we get our act together. That's wrote about in the book Talmud Devorah, by the way, the palm tree of Devorah. So here, also of us, all of us also lived among them at one time, fulfilling the cravings of our flesh and indulging its desires and thoughts, i.e. our own sense of self-righteousness is the primary one, isn't it? You know, we're doing what pleases us. And sometimes what pleases us is to fill ourselves up with our own sense of self-righteousness. Like the rest, we were by nature children of wrath, but we should be bringing shalom into the whole world, for the whole creation. But we don't accomplish that because we've got focused on the wrong thing. We've got focused on ourselves instead of being focused on the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh and thinking, how can we emulate him, given our thoughts, words and deeds? Our time on earth should be spent doing better stuff. But because of his great love for us, God, who is rich in mercy, made us alive with Christ, with Mashiach, even when we were dead in our trespasses, i.e. when we were caught up serving the slave master who rules instead of the king. It is by grace you have been saved. Okay, so this is really significant because one of the attributes of his mercy, of his name as revealed within the Torah of Moshe to Moshe in the cleft of rock, was attain. That's one of the primary attributes of his name. Okay, this is really significant when it comes especially to the lost house of Yosef, because they had no merit whatsoever according to the Torah of Moshe to earn the right to be drawn close to the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh as revealed through Yeshua, which is a higher level of mercy. It says by grace you were saved. But everything's got to be rooted back to the Torah of Moshe. Else it's just like an orphan or a widow. It's not rooted into the source of life. The only aspect of the Torah of Moshe that could be brought into operation to save the lost house of Yosef was this aspect of grace, because it's a part of his name. Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, Al-Rachum, Wechanun, merciful and gracious. So this Chanun is an aspect of his name. Grace is an aspect of the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh as revealed in the Torah of Moshe. And this is the hook, this is the link between the Torah of Moshe and the revelation that was experienced by the lost house of Yosef through Yeshua. That's how we're saved by grace. Because we have to be rooted back to the Torah of Moshe in some way. And that was the only way back for us. Because the rest of his name, or the Torah of Moshe, we had no merit. We'd not been keeping any of it. So how did we get the merit to draw near to the God as revealed through it? We had no merit. So the only aspect of the Torah of Moshe that we rooted back to is the aspect of his name, that is grace. Because grace means unmerited favour. Unmerited favour. The house of Joseph had unmerited favour. Why do you think they were allowed to go and be exiled to the extent that they were exiled to the 49th level of impurity, to the absolute depths of exile? The house of Joseph were exiled in far more depraved situations than even Yehuda. Why? Because Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh wanted to reveal his name, that upper level of mercy that was revealed in the book of Micah, chapter 7. Miel Kamocha. He wanted to reveal the higher levels of mercy, the levels of mercy that are at the level of crown. So everything is every single thing in creation is to one end and one end only. Every last thing that we experience in creation has got one purpose, and that purpose is to ultimately reveal his name and his authority, sovereignty and oneness. He desires to make known to man himself, not just his name. He desires to make known an aspect of his infinite essence. The aspect of his infinite essence that he desires to make known to man is a concept called his oneness, his echad. So everything in creation is purposed towards that end, because he gave man free will. However, it's only his will that's ultimately fulfilled, and his will is to bless man with a revelation of himself, because he knows that he's the ultimate good, and he desires to bestow it upon man. But he's not just going to give himself over to you freely. He wants you to earn that. That's part of his goodness. So he's given us a whole situation where we have got free choice. We've got to go fight against these forces. Because you see, when we get that revelation of Echad in the end, we will have earned it, and we will be glad that we didn't just get it handed to us on a plate. Because it's what reveals to, you can read in a book how good God is, or you can experience it in everything through your life. He wants us to experience Torah. He wants us to experience the living word of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. He wants us to experience himself. He wants us to contend with every force of opposite in order to find that truth hidden in it. And everything in creation is purposed towards that end. All of humanity will experience that. Why do we know that? Because there's no vanity and emptiness in anything that Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh does. Everything is part and rooted back to that one will. His Ratzon is to reveal his oneness. Everything is a part of his will. Even man's free choice to do evil. It's all part of it. It's all factored in. Man's free choice and choice to do evil that then creates the veil that is like Memtet, the prince of the world. We've created it for ourselves because we're so immature we can't make the right decisions to emulate his name. All this is part of that ultimate oneness. We cannot defeat his will. Nothing can. There's only him, nothing else beside him. This is when you've got to get Memtet into perspective. Even that is part of his will to reveal his absolute sovereignty and oneness. And he's, like I say, that's just the work that we've got given to earn that good that he desires to bestow. And he wants to give more than we want to receive. Obviously, else we'd be already there, wouldn't we? But in the blink of an eye, we can transition from one reality to the next, from exile to redemption. We just keep doing the work that we've got to do below. And it's by grace, by the way. The final connection to that oneness is through grace again. So we will literally be redeemed by grace again, because God will decide when it's we do everything we can below. We do everything we can below to usher in final redemption, but final redemption is in the hands of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh to decide, and it's by grace that we enter in again. So, and God raised us up with Christ and seated us with him in the heavenly realms in Jesus Christ. Okay, this has probably been misunderstood. In order that in the coming ages he might display the surpassing riches of his grace, demonstrated by his kindness, and that's again another aspect of the name, the holy name. And what's kindness related to? It's related to emeth, chesed wa emeth, kindness and truth. You're going to need both of those things, by the way, because without kindness you don't get the chokhmah, the wisdom. I talked about that before. Yeshua represents the higher wisdom. Moshe represents the lower wisdom that need uniting together as one. Or the higher name and the lower name, you need uniting together as one. By his kindness to us in Jesus Christ, okay, which is Yeshua HaMoshiach. For it is by grace you have been saved through faith, and this not from yourselves, it is a gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast. House of Joseph had no merits, they had no works. They got to accept. You know, it was through faith in Yod-Heh-Wah's provision, okay, to be by grace. But that grace, where does the grace come from? The grace comes from the Torah, his name as revealed in the Torah of Moshe. This should have rooted us back to the Torah of Moshe, by the way, but what has it done instead? We've fallen from grace if we start keeping the Torah of Moshe, which is absolutely, it's a part of the delusion, isn't it? You know, if you start keeping Torah, the argument that Christians will impose on you is that you have fallen from grace. But where is the grace that the Christians are speaking about? Where does the grace come from that they're speaking about? Where is the grace that helped them to access the name of Yod-Heh-Wah through Yeshua? The grace comes from the Torah of Moshe. The grace is not revealed in the it's not revealed in the name of Keter. Grace is only revealed in the Torah of Moshe. So these people that say that you've fallen from grace when you start keeping the commandments, they don't understand that. It's through the grace as revealed in the Torah of Moshe that we were able to access the name as revealed through Yeshua. So it's a complete lie. You don't fall from grace. That is the route back to the Torah of Moshe that we actually need to sustain us. So you've been saved through faith, which is it's at the level of crown, that itself. And this is not from yourselves, it is a gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast. For we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance as our way of life. What we're supposed to be doing then? We're supposed to be emulating his name. That's what we're supposed to be doing. And through that creating a big abundance of blessing for everybody on earth, as it is in heaven. So contrary to that is this these people who were under the subjugation of this ruler of the power of the air. We've got to break free from that. Right, this is very interesting. This is the promise of the Ruach HaKodesh, isn't it? Like I say, I'm not an expert on the Gospels, but if I root it back to what I know from the Torah and things like that, it makes a lot more sense. Now, however, I am going to him who sent me, not yet none of you asks me, where are you going? He actually went into heaven, but then he descended into exile, didn't he? His soul is down here in us, suffering in this exile, trying to encourage us to be like him. Instead, your hearts are filled with sorrow because I have told you these things, but I tell you the truth. It is for your benefit that I am going away. Unless I go away, the advocate will not come to you. But if I go, I will send him to you. And when he comes, he will convict the world in regard to sin and righteousness and judgment. In regard to sin, because they do not believe in me. They don't believe in the revelation that was revealed through Yeshua HaMashiach and the power to save. You know, those who had been without merit. In regard to righteousness, because I'm going to the Father and you will no longer see me. In regard to judgment, because the prince of this world has been condemned. Okay, through Mashiach, the prince of the world is condemned. So that's very interesting, isn't it? The Metatron has also got this concept. He is the executive arm of justice. Okay? So when you're getting punished and you think you're getting punished by God, and if you do this, you'll avoid punishment, and if you do this, you'll get rewarded. Yod-Heh-Waw never changes. So even if you've got that mentality, that means you're subject to the prince of the world to some degree, and that might be for your benefit until you're spiritually mature. But then once you are spiritually mature, you've got to fight against that guardian and break free and enter into Messianic levels of consciousness. So, like I say, there's two aspects of it, isn't there? Just like it's the clipper, the evil shell is like protecting the fruit until it's fully ripe. You know, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is all about eating unripe fruit. It's connected to the concept of eating unripe fruit. There will be a time where the fruit ripens. I still have much. So the prince of the world has been condemned through Mashiach, Yeshua. Okay? Been put in his place, or we've been empowered to overcome it. Also, this is related to the story of the paradise, because what happened to Metatron, according to the sages, he was whipped for deceiving those people. This is all in a parable, if you like. You understanding very big, powerful spiritual concepts that they can't be understood even in words. So they've got to tell you a story, and hidden in the story is something that will help us down here understand it. So Metatron was seated because he's the scribe in heaven. And this is what confused them when they saw him, because they thought there's only one that can sit in heaven. So then they're thinking, okay, so there must be two powers. And because he didn't communicate to him what he was doing, he was a scribe writing down the judgments and stuff at that time. He had the permission to sit, but because they weren't aware of that, they just concluded, oh, he's sitting in heaven, there must be two powers. This is a problem also with the concept of Mashiach. We've got to be very, very careful that we don't see there's two powers. There isn't two powers, there's one power. It's called the name of Yod-Heh-Waw. So he's the ultimate power and he's the ultimate will, and the Mashiach is like his vice regent on earth as it is in heaven. It's got to be careful that we don't confuse this concept of Messiah with Yod-Heh-Waw himself. Okay, what happened to Metatron, according to the sages? He was lashed, because he ultimately ended up in a lot of deception, didn't it? And negative consequences for all those rabbis that entered into the secret dimension of the Torah and were deceived by the concept of Metatron. Okay, so Metatron got punished on account of that. So it's linked even to what Yeshua says, and in regard to judgment, because the prince of this world has been condemned. Okay. But bearing in mind also in the Rosh Hashanah Machzor, there's three people mentioned. You've got Metatron, Sar HaPanim. Sorry, no, you won't got Metatron. You've got Metatron, Sar HaOlam, Metatron, Prince of the World, Eliyahu Hanavi, and Yeshua, Sar HaPanim, Yeshua, the Prince of the Face. And this is all in the Jewish Machzor. This is a prayer contained within the Jewish Machzor, where they have got to pray for atonement and forgiveness on Rosh Hashanah, the day of the trumpets, the blowing of the shofar. Why have they got the concept of Yeshua Sar HaPanim in there? Because there is no forgiveness unless you've got that. There is no forgiveness for the desecration of his holy name unless you've got that tip of the Yud revealed. Because desecration of the holy name affects even up to the level of the letter Yud. Teshuvah, repentance, and Jubilee, Yovel year, and all the provision within Judaism for correcting sin only goes up to the letter He of the name of Yod-Heh-Waw. Blemishes up to the letter He. Desecration of his only holy name goes up to the letter of Yod. And you can only atone from above. Atonement means covering. So you can only cover the body of the Yod, with something higher than the Yod. What's higher than the Yod? The tip of the Yod. What aspect of Mashiach is the tip of the Yod? It's the Yechida, it's Mashiach ben Yosef. He's the crown, he's the thorn of the Yod. Sorry, he's the thorn on the Yod. So that's why they have to put the reference to Yeshua Sahapanim, because even they know who the Mashiach is. And there wouldn't be, in Judaism, the only atonement for Chilul Hashem, it's called, Chilul Hashem, is a halal, a dead body. You can only atone for desecration of the holy name through your dead body, halal. But Yeshua is a provision, so you don't have to die. You can desecrate the name and you don't have to die in order to gain forgiveness for that sin and atonement for that sin. That's another reason why Jews need Yeshua Sahapanim, and even the Rosh Hashanah Machzor points this out. Okay, but in that same context is linked to Metatron Sahapanim and Eliyahu and Navi. There's all mysteries involved, isn't there? We've all been lied to. I still have much to tell you, but you cannot bear to hear it. However, when the Spirit of Truth comes, he will guide you into all truth. We need the Spirit of Truth now. That is the actual key to overcome Satan. You cannot defeat Satan without the truth. Why? Because he's the father of lies. The only thing that can overcome a lie is the truth. However, the Spirit of Truth comes, he will guide you into all truth. And he will not speak on his own, but he will speak what he hears, and he will declare to you what is to come. He will glorify me by taking from what is mine and disclosing it to you. Everything that belongs to the Father is mine. That is why I say that the Spirit will take from what is mine and disclose it to you. What is Yeshua's, by the way? What is Yeshua's is the tip of the Yod. It's an aspect of the name of Yotevaweh, the highest aspect of the Mashiach. That is actually one with Yotevaweh, not absolutely one, but indiscernibly one. There's a lot in there then, isn't there? Everything that belongs to the Father is mine. That is why I said that the Spirit will take from what is mine and disclose it to you. It will take from what is the tip of the Yod. In a little while you will see me no more, and then after a while you will see me. Okay, so I won't go any further into that. I don't really know what he means by that, but whether that's when he's referring to you won't see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of Yotevaweh, and we know exactly what that means. The full power of his name, because we don't talk about that enough, do we? You know? Right, so I think I've just read that, haven't I? Alright, we on John 14? That was on John 6. Alright, this is from John 16 then. So just read John 14, so from John 16. If you love me, you will keep my commandments, and I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to be with you forever, the Spirit of truth, Emeth. Okay, the world cannot receive him because it neither sees him nor knows him, but you do know him, for he abides with you, and you be and will be in you. I will not leave you as orphans, I will come to you. In a little while the world will see me no more. So there's a parallel here between what's going on here and 14. By the way, there's a connection here with Enoch, because he was no more. And it's also connected to Daniel. There's a prophecy about the Mashiach being no more. I did a recent teaching on Daniel. It goes through this concept of no more. It's highly messianic what it's actually saying. It's linking you back to Daniel in some way, but it's also linking you to the concept of Enoch, who was no more. And according to the sages, Enoch became Metatron. Okay, and according to the Vilna Gaon, there's Metatron and Mashiach ben Yosef are one, but it's a little bit difficult because there is some truth in that as well. It's to do with the incarnation of the supernal days. What I said at the beginning, Metatron's the 6 days, the 666. Yeshua's the 7th day, the 777. Mashiach ben David is the 8th day, 888. So you just have to know the subtle differences, because you don't want to be bound up with the concept of the 666, do you? Which you could so easily be if you misinterpret it wrong, and a lot of people do. This being no more is connected to the Metatron. In a little while the world will see me no more, but you will see me, because I live, you also will live. On that day you will know that I am in my Father, and you are in me, and I am in you. Whoever has my commandments and keeps them is the one who loves me. The one who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I will love him and reveal myself to him. And it goes on, doesn't it, about Judas Iscariot, and then it goes on again at the bottom. I'll just read it quickly. Judas not Iscariot, this is Judas not Iscariot, asked him, Lord or Master, why are you going to reveal yourself to us and not to the world? Yeshua replied, if anyone loves me, will keep my word. My Father will love him, and he will come to him and make our home with him. Whoever does not love me does not keep my words. The word that you hear is not my own, but is from the Father who sent me, i.e. the Torah of Moshe, the commandments, the Torah of Moshe. He just with emphasis on loving your neighbour as yourself, and even loving your enemies, by the way. We've only got the opportunity to love the enemies at the higher. This is not within the Torah of Moshe. This is through grace, accessing the higher levels of mercy that's revealed in the book of Micah. We've only got the power to love your enemies at that level, because it's a higher level of forgiveness. Whoever does not love me does not keep my words. The word that you hear is not my own, but it's from the Father who sent me. All this I have spoken to you while I'm still with you. But the Advocate, the Ruach HaKodesh, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you all things and will remind you of everything I have told you. So we do need this Ruach HaKodesh. However, there's a lot of what's the word? False. People are deceived. There's a lot of familiar spirits, and people get an illumination in their soul through Yeshua. You can get an illumination in your soul through reading one verse, but that don't necessarily mean you've been anointed with the Ruach HaKodesh. It might feel like something a lot more holy than what you're used to, and you might have had an outpouring of the Holy Spirit, but then that outpouring can have greatly diminished, because you could have wandered off the path. You could have been doing what you're not meant to be doing, and the Holy Spirit won't be anywhere around you, by the way. So you need to continually be refreshed with that, because there's a lot of deception around regarding it. The Holy Spirit should lead you to holiness for a start, and should lead you to emulation of his name. Some people are doing a whole lot less than that and calling it the Ruach HaKodesh. Right, that's just back to Ephesians 2. So I hope you can appreciate a little bit, looking from what we've looked at regarding the concept of Metatron, Prince of the World, found in the Zohar, and we're going to have a look at the Talmud shortly, how that links us back to what was written in the Gospels, and hopefully it should give us a bit of depth. And like I say, if you go to this and have a look at all these, there's loads of scriptures. It's very interesting. You're going to have a little bit more to work with. The Prince, for example, all these forces that deceive you into living through your flesh rather than living through letting your flesh dominate over your soul rather than letting your soul dominate over your flesh. That's the battle that we've got to ultimately overcome. We've got to get to a place where our soul dominates over our flesh. We can only do that with the truth. The truth is what sets us free from that dominion, and to our soul being empowered to overcome our body. That's give truth to Yaakov. Yaakov represents our soul. Esav represents our body. If you want your soul to dominate, your soul needs to know the truth, like Yaakov needed to be told the truth, or Yosef Chai, Yosef is still alive. Because without him, he had no Ruach HaKodesh. Okay, it tells you that in the Torah, his spirit was diminished. And then he was brought to life when he was told the truth, or Yosef Chai. So there's all this, it's all connected, and that's how it's all rooted back to the Torah of Moshe. That's why we need to know the Torah very, very clearly, because then we'll understand this whole history that we're experiencing, which is totally and utterly rooted in the Torah of Moshe. Why? Because the Torah of Moshe represents a revelation of his name, Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, and Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh is faithful to his name. That's why we should be living Torah scrolls. That he's faithful to us, he wants to be near us. We are him. We are representing him on earth in physical reality. Okay, so I'm going to try and go through this quick because I have gone on quite a lot now, but these are really important concepts that we've got to start to be aware of. So let's go and have a look at this number. So the regular of this, Prince of the World, this is the Greek gematria, by the way. This is not Hebrew. There's a reason why I did it, because I was told by a very reliable source that the Greek New Testament is actually sanctified in some way by the Sanhedrin. I can't get you a source on that, but it came from quite a high authority, so I believe it because that has been the gospel that's gone out into the world, and it's served a purpose, and only Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh could have done that. So we've got to recognise things for what they are. Right, so the regular of that is 3121, which is the exact mispag kadima of this phrase, and I will repay you for the years. It's linked back to Joel. I will repay for you the years that the increasing locust, the nibbling locust, the finishing locust, and the shearing locust have devoured my great army which I sent against you. This is connected to the Prince of the World. We need to be repaid. You see, for this battle that we've endured, all of us together, to try and defeat this force called the Prince of the World, especially when we get towards the end, when all the powers are there in the world to see. I mean, how many people had to die during COVID? This is a war. This is a war about good against evil, truth against lie, isn't it? And we've got to overcome that force. And the only way we can do it is with the truth and true knowledge of God. Truth should lead you to true knowledge of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. And that's what should empower us to be who we are meant to be. So he will repay us for the years that being under the slave that rules instead of the king has caused us all the misery that it has. Okay, so this is also connected. This Prince of the World has got an ordinal of 241, a Greek ordinal of 241. Together they come to 3,362. You've got this concept of the two sons of the oil. Shnei B'nai Hayiz Har. Okay, two sons of the oil. These are the two anointed ones that's talked about. I've done a teaching on this recently because of this number here, 322. 732 even. 732, we'll see what the gematria of that is, but these two sons of the anointed, which are ultimately Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David. Okay, if you fill out the two sons of the oil for the different ways that they can be filled, when the hay is filled, the different ways that it can be filled, just as the name Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh can be filled different ways. So when the hay is filled with the different ways, and the yod is and the vav is filled the different ways that it can be, just as, like I say, the name Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh can be filled different ways for different ways. So if we add all the fillings up for two sons of the oil, the two anointed ones, it comes to 6,724, which is 2 times 3,362. So exactly 2 times the Prince of the World. You see the sons of the oil? the two anointed ones, the two Mashiachim, Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Yosef. You need to be connected to that reality in order to defeat the prince of the world. And you need to know who that actually is. Okay? We're going to see on the next one who that actually is. There you go. Ephraim and Manasseh. So Ephraim, Manasseh he was the interpreter between Joseph and his brothers, and he really represents Christianity. Ephraim, he represents the lost of the house of Joseph within Christianity. Ephraim represents the lost of the house of Joseph within Islam. Okay? Talked about that a lot. These are the two concepts of Mashiach. The Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David. Okay, come to 732, exactly the same as the two sons of the oil. So you need to get, this is why do you think that the blessed, Israel is blessed that they are like Ephraim and Manasseh? Because you're really asking them to be like the two concepts of Mashiach. Go back to what we said about Bereshit, that first aspect of Zohar. You've got to have Moshe revealed with the two Mashiachim. So you've got to have Moshe revealed, the Torah of Moshe, which really represents the ketubah, doesn't it? It's a marriage contract. Who are the two witnesses to the marriage contract? Ephraim and Manasseh. It all goes together. This is why you need the bigger perspective, because then you're not calling billions of people idol worshippers. You got to understand that hidden in all that is something that Yod-Heh-Waw is doing to fulfill his Torah perfectly, by the way. So we've got the two sons of the anointed related to the prince of the world, and then we're told even who the two sons of the anointed are, the Ephraim and Manasseh. The two sons of Yosef. Okay, it's the house of Yosef. It's the house of Yosef. This is what's going to defeat this prince of the world. The revelation that has been given over to Yosef. And then this is very interesting, isn't it? Because you've got the two sons of the oil, the two anointed ones, and one of the fillings out at the level of Yetzirah, by the way, which is the level of the prince of the world. This is why we've got to get out of, we're in the world, not of it. And there's a lot of truth in that, because he's not the prince of all the worlds. He's the prince of the world of Yetzirah primarily. We've got to get beyond that to the level of B'riyah, to the level of the Garden of Eden. So 1670 is the filling out of the two sons of the two sons of the oil, or the two anointed ones, at the level of Yetzirah. And as we can see, the Mispah Gadol of this phrase, and as one of the princes you will fall. So that word there is sarim, tifalu, you will fall. We want in this prince to fall, because this prince falling means we've been raised up. We've been raised up like Ephraim and Manasseh to defeat him. Okay, which means basically the two aspects of Mashiach. So we can see even that we need to be at this level to cause the falling of the prince. What princes? And as one of the princes, one prince. Uka achad. Who is the one prince we want to fall? We want the prince of the world to fall. So you see, that's connected to the concept of the two sons of the oil. We've got to be connected to these realities without being thoroughly connected to them. And that means to be connected to the truth that's hidden in Islam, to the truth that's hidden in Christianity, to the truth that's hidden in Judaism, to the true Torah, to the true knowledge of Yod-Heh-Waw. Because if we don't have that, we will have a lie there instead. We will have lies about everything that's outside our little narrow perspective. And that's just enemy territory then. That's just giving dominion over to the prince of the world. You want to take back dominion from this liar. Wherever you have got false knowledge of Yod-Heh-Waw, you've got given dominion over the prince of the world. So we've got to look for the truth in everything. That's why we need, why do you think we've got given the spirit of truth? And then this is unbelievable, isn't it? Sim na yotcha tachat yerechi. please place your hand under my thigh. So this takes us all the way back to the Abrahamic covenant. Okay? And who came from Abraham? All the Abrahamic faiths. And we can see, to defeat the one prince that we want to fall. Why do we want the one prince to fall? Because it says that we've got to raise up the fallen succor of David. The fallen succor of David. And there's this is connected to the whole concept of abortion, by the way. This word nafal, to fall, it's like it's connected to the concept of a stillborn. You know, we can go so far along our process of maturation. We can go so far, and then do you know what? We fall at the last hurdle. We don't make it to full spiritual status, to the level where we need to defeat these princes of the world. We somehow fall. We somehow get caught in one of his lies. We get caught in one of his nets, and we fail to give birth to Mashiach ben David completely, or the whole concept of Mashiach. Okay, so we can see how it's connected to the whole concept of under my thigh, because without the covenant of Abraham, we've no seed to give birth to. So it's all linked. We've got to have all these things in our mind. And it's all very interesting, isn't it? So we've got to have the truth there instead of the lie. It's the truth that empowers us. And we've got to be connected to all these concepts, connected to all the things that are going to bring us and empower us. We've got to be connected to Abraham for a start off. We've got to be connected to all the forefathers to defeat this force. So all that's very interesting, isn't it? And then here you go. And God made the expanse, and it separated between the water that was below the expanse and the water that was above the expanse, and it was so. This is connected to the concept of the firmament, and the firmament is connected to the Vav, which is connected to the concept of Mashiach ben Yosef. That's the bit between heaven and earth. So you've got, going back to the concept of the Aleph is made up of two Yods, an upper Yod, a lower Yod, and a Vav in between. Okay, and they add up to 26, by the way. 2 Yods 10 and the Vav is 26. This is what's concealing the name Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. So the Vav is the firmament. This is related to the concept of Mashiach ben Yosef. He's like the firmament. There's heaven and earth. Earth is represented by Mashiach ben David, the Malkuth, establishing kingdom on earth. The upper Yod is connected to Moshe or Tifereth. Okay, or a revelation of the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, and then you've got this firmament in between, and that's connected to this verse here. And the gematria of it is quite interesting. I'm not going to go into that today, but the gematria points very clearly to the light of Mashiach ben Yosef. So we can see, if we add up the regular and the ordinal of that, comes to 5,302, which is 22 times 241. And we can see 241 is the prince of the world, okay, the ordinal for the prince of the world, and 22 are the 22 letters of the Aleph Bet, okay, the Aleph to the Tav. So we're talking about Mashiach ben Yosef representing the secret inner dimension of the Torah that's written in Aleph, from Aleph to Tav. It's all connected. Instead of the true concept of Mashiach ben Yosef, the true Vav, we've got this. It's actually connected to this as well. Please place your hand under my thigh, because Mashiach ben Yosef is connected to the male anatomy. So we can see how it's connected to that, because place your hand under my thigh is not really talking about a thigh. It's just a modest way of saying Brit Mila. So you can see it's all connected, and the prince of the world is like a male anatomy in what would be called a dead state. You can use your imagination to think about what that is. Whereas Mashiach ben Yosef, Od Yosef Chai, Yosef is still alive, is in an alive state. Use your imagination to figure that one out as well. What state do we want? We ideally want to be in an alive state. We don't want Yosef dead and the prince of the world there instead. We want everything to be functioning properly and holy and good and doing the job that it's intended to do. Okay, so that's very interesting. And this is even more interesting. It says, be cautious regarding the lesion of Taharath, to observe meticulously, and you shall do according to all that the Levite priests instruct you, as I have commanded them, so shall you observe to do. Remember what Yotewah, your God, your Elohim, did to Miriam on the way when you went out of Egypt. What happened to Miriam? She spoke against the Mashiach. She spoke against the concept of the Mashiach. She spoke against Moshe, who was the most humble. And there's other things that's connected to that. I have actually done teachings on this before, but she spoke against the concept of the Mashiach. And then she ended up with leprosy. So this verse, remember what the Lord your God, it's Lashon Hara. Basically, she had evil tongue. If you look at the whole problem in the desert, it can be traced back to the evil tongue. Wonder spoke against the bread from heaven. The spies spoke against evil against the land. And Miriam spoke evil against Moshe. So you've got the bread from heaven, which represents a revelation of the Torah that got spoken against, which represents a revelation of the name of Yotewah. By the way, the Torah is a revelation of the name of Yotewah. Spoke against the land, Eretz Yisrael, which again is heavily connected to a revelation of Yotewah. They spoke against Moshe. There's the Mashiach who reveals, who is that like the vice regent that reveals and represents and emulates that name perfectly. So we've got a problem with Lashon Hara, evil tongue. We've got to get Lashon Kodesh. We've got to get a holy tongue and speak the truth instead of lies. We can't speak against the Mashiach. We can't speak against the land of Eretz Yisrael. We can't give a bad report. We can't speak against the bread from heaven. We're going to end up with serious spiritual consequences if we do. And this is telling us clearly, remember what the Lord your God did to Miriam on the way when you went out of Egypt. Because she spoke Lashon Hara, she was afflicted with leprosy. Go up here then, Prince of the World, is exactly the same as that verse. So what's that telling you? See, Lashon Hara is going to keep you under his dominion, because Lashon Hara equates to lies. You're speaking lies. So guess whose dominion you fall under? You fall under the Prince of the World's dominion. You need to pray to speak the truth, because the truth shall set you free. Free from what? Well, free from his slavery for a starter. You'll be allowed then to serve the King over kings of kings, as the King over kings. You got to circumcise your heart. The truth circumcises your heart. You got to circumcise your understanding. The truth circumcises your understanding. We really need the truth. We need ha'emeth, the truth, not all these exilic lies and fantasy fiction versions of Messiah and Mashiach and all the rest of it. Anything that keeps you in a small perspective rather than seeing the truth in the bigger perspective. It's all dangerous, right? So this is incredible. Now we're going to have a look at this concept of, behold, I am sending an angel before you to guide you on your way, to bring you to the place I have prepared. Beware of him and obey him. Do not rebel against him, for he will not forgive you your transgression. Why? It says, for my name is within him. But like I've pointed out, Metatron has got the same gematria as Shaddai. If he had the power of the name, he could forgive, because we know that the name is all about forgiving. If he gives sins, if he gives transgressions, it goes on and on about forgiving. So it's obviously not the name of Yotewah, as he would have the power to forgive. That's a big clue what you're dealing with. You're dealing with something that doesn't really represent the name of Yotewah. Right, we've got to go. This is a brilliant number, by the way. The gematria on this is brilliant, but first of all I want to go and have a look at the Talmud. to show you exactly what this angel is in terms of Metatron. And when we attain the status of Mashiach, we're not subject to this angel anymore. Let's go and have a look. And when it says don't obey him, what does that really mean? It means don't worship him. This links us back to the story of the 4 sages that went up into the Paradise and only one of them returned in peace. This is a big concept, you've got to get it right. This is going to transition you from Yaakov to Israel. And our Father didn't make it easy. Why? Because it's just going to reveal how awesome we are made. That we can take these things down. That we can connect to the Spirit of truth through Yeshua. To be able to reveal the truth. All these concepts that gives us the biggest perspective and the good interpretation of all reality. It brings glory to the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. That removes all false gods from the earth. Right, let's go and have a look what's written in the Talmud then, because it gets very interesting now. Okay, I'm going to say something here. This is on Sfaria.org and this is Sanhedrin. It's all at Talmud accessible, all for free. Okay, the entire Talmud. The context of this Sanhedrin 38b is unbelievably interesting. You know, we've been given messages that we need for now. It's unbelievable, the context. It starts to talk about Adam speaking in Aramaic, and that's a big clue. It gives us, it's a big clue to help us understand the whole story of the 4 sages and into the Pardes. Then it starts to talk about these thrones, one being the footstool and one being the throne, and who they represent, like Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh and ultimately David. Okay. All kinds of stuff is very interesting in context. There's a lot there that's worth a read through if you get the chance. I am not going to go through that. I just want to concentrate on this part. It's going to talk about Metatron in the Talmud. It says, Rav Nachman says, this one, i.e. any person who knows how to respond to the heretics, talking about Christians by the way, usually the word heretics is talking about the Christians, as effectively as Rav Edit should respond to them. But if he does not know, he should not respond to them. I.e., if you've no knowledge, don't bother arguing with people, especially not about concepts of Metatron. The Gemara relates a certain heretic said to Rav Edit, it is written in the verse concerning God, and to Moses he said, come up to the Lord. That's from Exodus. I'll come up to Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. Exodus 24:1. The heretic raised a question. It should have said, come up to me. Rav Edit said to him, this term, Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, in that verse is referring to the angel Metatron. This is where it says that it's got the name of the master in it. But let's just go on. Whose name is like the name of his master. Okay, so the real name of Metatron is Yael. Yod-Heh-Vav-El. So it is like his master in that way, but he represents the name of Shaddai. Okay, so whose name is like the name of the master, as it is written, behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way and to bring you to the place I have prepared. Take heed of him and obey his voice. Do not defy him, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. The heretic said to him, if so, if this angel is equated to God, we should worship him as we worship God. Rav Edit said to him, it is written, do not defy, do not disobey him. It says, does it? Yeah, do not defy him. And that word in Hebrew is tameh, do not defy him, which alludes to do not replace me, tem irene, with him. So hidden in the Hebrew of that phrase, do not disobey, do not defy him, is also the understanding in Hebrew, do not worship him. And this was the problem, weren't it, with the sages when they came across this concept of Metatron, that they felt it were two powers and one should be worshipped. Okay, so this is how you've got to respond. The heretic said to him, if so, why do I need the clause, for I will not pardon your transgression? Rav Edit said to him, we believe that we did not accept the angel, even as a guide, ba favanka, which that word in Hebrew is lamatacha, where you get Metatron from in Aramaic. So even as a guide, we believe, this is from the Jewish person's perspective, we believe that we did not accept the angel even as a guide, befavancha, for the journey, as it is written. And he said to him, i.e. Moshe said to him, if your presence go not with me, raise us not up from here. So Moses told God that if God himself does not accompany the Jewish people, or Bnei Israel it is actually, Bnei Israel, they do not want to travel to Eretz Israel. The Gemara relates a certain heretic, alright, so that's it then. When Moshe is in the world, i.e. Moshe has got the power to say, we don't want this angel to come with us, and the angel didn't. Okay, you can find the rest of the teachings. When Moshe was here, Moshe himself guided the children of Israel. He was their shepherd. When Yeshua was here, we're clear, because we just read in the Gospels, that the Prince of the world comes only when he's not in the world. Okay, so what have we got to do? And we've got to get to the status of Mashiach, because when there's Mashiach in this world, there's no angel. The angels came when Moshe died. That goes back to the first, and he's concealed. Nobody knows where he's buried. Nobody knows the true concept of Mashiach. He's buried. We've got to resurrect him from the dead. That means we've got to reveal the true concept of the Mashiach, because the Mashiach represents knowledge of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. So when we have not got that, we've got an angel guiding us instead. When we haven't raised ourselves up to the level of Mashiach, true knowledge of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, we've got this angel doing what we should be doing in our stead. So all the time Moshe was here, there was no angel. And then we see the angel appear in the Torah once Moshe's dead. The angels appear to Joshua. Likewise Yeshua, when he was around, he says, when I go, the Prince of the world will come. So we know the Prince of the world was not in the world whilst he was. He was the Mashiach. This is another proof as well to the Jewish people that all the words of the gospel align to what is written in their own Talmud perfectly. They believe in this, they won't believe the words in the gospel, which more than confirm them to be the truth. It's unbelievable. So that's why we've got to get to the state of Mashiach, because when Mashiach's in the world, there is no Prince of the world. We've defeated him. Because why? Because we're emulating the name. We don't need an intermediary to do it all for us. And by us emulating the name, the whole cog, Metatron's called the cog on earth, or the wheel on earth. He's what's causing creation to go. It's not running according to the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. It's running on empty. This is why there's so much deprivation and suffering and destruction in the world. The world is not running according to the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. It's been run by a slave acting as a king. We should be at the level of Mashiach, and we, by doing that and emulating the name, cause that whole cog on the earth to run as it should, in accordance to the name in heaven, the pattern in heaven down on earth. So in the meantime, we've got this slave, and we are serving a slave like good little slaves. He don't teach us how to be the king's children, by the way. He teaches us to be slave masters. How can a slave teach you to be children of the king? He's never going to teach you. You got to defeat him. You got to find that within yourself. And the truth shall set you free. It should empower your soul to defeat all these lies. Okay, so back to this. I'm going to cut this short because I've gone on way longer than I thought I would, but it's a complicated topic. It deserves to get the attention that it's needed, because we're living in times where we need to understand these concepts very clearly. This is connected to a concept I've talked about a lot, the concept of Shimon ben Hillel and the concept of Shammai the elder. Shimon ben Hillel was the Nasai that was the head of the Sanhedrin at the time of Yeshua, from AD 10 to AD 30. Shammai was the elder from BC 20 to AD 30. Okay, if we take this phrase up here, behold, I am sending an angel before you to guide you on the way and to bring you to the place that I have prepared. That's got an ordinal of 536. And then the next verse, beware of him and obey him, do not rebel against him, for he will not forgive your transgression, for my name is within him. That's got an ordinal of 560. If we add them together, it comes to 1096. If we add the regular of Shimon ben Hillel, who was the Nasai, and the regular of Shammai the elder, who was the Avbeth Din, in charge of the 70 elders. In fact, the Shammai is an anagram of the 70 elders of the men of Israel. Okay, Shammai Hazakan, Shammai the elder, if you add them together, come to 1096. These were the holy opposites. They're called what's called the Zugoth. They were the last Zugoth. The holy Zugoth between the Nasai and the Avbeth Din, the head of the Sanhedrin, and the what's called the father of the house of judgment, Avbeth Din. Okay, that was representing the 70 elders. Okay, Shimon ben Hillel represented Moshe. Shammai the elder represented the 70 elders in the wilderness, and this is the court for deciding all the halakha. So these two were, I believe, extraordinarily holy people that were two opposites that were able to draw down that revelation of Yeshua at that time. They're definitely a part of it. Shimon ben Hillel, by the way, has had his name completely erased from the entire of the Talmud for no reason. So we know he's connected to the concept of Yeshu. May his name be erased in his memory. He's the only sage, significant sage, that has had his name completely removed, and he's from the house of Hillel, he's from Davidic dynasty. He's very significant. He's most likely the Shimon talked about in Luke 2. I thought previously that he's the Mashiach, somehow connected to Shimon Kefa. I don't really know. He's somebody very significant. In this holy union, it says Yod-Heh-Wah dwells between two opposites. So these were the two opposites that allowed that revelation of Yod-Heh-Wah to be revealed through Yeshua in this world for definite. That's why the man called Shimon was the first man to acknowledge Yeshua in the temple. So it's significant. These two people are significant. They have had their names both erased. Shammai is not a real name. Shammai is not a real name. It's possibly related to the word Shammaya, which means heaven, for in the book of Daniel, for example, written in Aramaic. Shammaya is the name for heaven. It's also related to an anagram of the 70 elders of Israel, which all those letters, 70 from the men of Israel, the elders of the men of Israel. So add them both together, it comes to 1096, exactly the gematria for these two verses talking about this angel on the way. You see, those two were the only opposites that drew down that revelation of Yeshua at this very high level at that time. And these are the two opposites. What that name, the name dwells between two opposites. Okay, like the name dwells between the two cheruvim, and we know they're somehow connected to the concept of Metatron itself. So if we want to defeat this angel, we've got to understand this history. What was actual history, not the lies that we've been told, and not what's been erased from memory. We need to know who this man is, because he's significant. He's had his name completely erased. There's only two hints in the Talmud that give you any indication of just how significant he is. And exactly, Shammai the elder, he was totally betrayed, but the sages say that the halakha will go according to the house of Shammai in the end. Currently we're under Hillel. We're under the rulings of Hillel. Okay, there's loads and loads of significance in that. We've got to understand the significance of that. Why? Because we've got to defeat this angel of We've got to defeat the negative aspect of the angel that guards us on our way. We've got to get to a place of maturity. So we're going to have to confront real reality. Can't hide from it. Because if we're hiding from it, we've got a lie that we've been inherited. Instead, who's going to have dominion over that? So this is telling us, you see, you need to find out what went on here between these two. What was the significance of it that we've been lied about? You know, because we need the truth. The truth will set us free. And they are extremely significant people. I've done lots of teachings on them. Lots and lots. I can't say that I've got it all right, because we're trying to sort truth from lie, and it's a long process. It's sometimes little by little until all the jigsaw pieces come together. This is obviously a significant one that's telling us you need to get on and sort that out, truth from lie. Right, for out of Zion shall the Torah come forth, and the word of the Lord, or the word of Yahuwah from Jerusalem, the word of Yod-Heh-Wawi from Jerusalem. That's Isaiah 2:3. So that comes to 2,192, 2 times 1,096, which is the exact gematria of these two. This Holy Zugoth, the exact gematria of these, the ordinals for these two verses. What is in there then that's so significant? It can help transition us from a place where we're under a guardian to a place where we've reached Messianic levels of consciousness and Messianic levels of being. Because the Zion is representing Yosef, and Jerusalem represents Mashiach ben David. So it's the concept of Yosef united with Mashiach ben David that's going to overcome this. It's the truth. The truth of that revelation, the true concept of Mashiach, rather than the false one that we've been got, or the lies that we've been told. The truth, the Torah come forth from Yosef, not Yehuda. For out of Zion shall the Torah come forth. What Torah? That really represents the Torah of that was revealed through Yeshua. The higher levels of Torah, the higher levels of mercy of his name. And the word of the Lord, or the word of Yod-Heh-Wawi from Jerusalem, that's connected to Mashiach ben David. So we've got to unite them both together to defeat this concept of the negative concept of the angel of the Lord, our guardian. We've got to defeat him to become who we are meant to be. We're meant to be like Ephraim and Manasseh. We're meant to be like Joseph and David. We're meant to be Mashiach on earth, not Metatron he's doing a really diminished level of work. He's a slave, not a king. We're the king. We're to be like at the level of kings over kings. Our Father in heaven is the king over kings of kings. Okay, and this also is to do with rectifying and circumcising our whole life. Humbling ourselves. Got to circumcise our heart, got to circumcise our anatomy, circumcise our understanding, which is our ears, circumcise our ears, circumcise our entire experience, and circumcise our lips, going back to the Lashon Hara. You can't just speak rubbish, you've got to speak the truth shall set us free. And this is very interesting, isn't it? Because according to the sages, this prayer was written by Shimon Kefa. So maybe he's related to Shimon ben Hillel. They've lied to us about this whole concept of Shimon. We know that Shimon is related to the prophet that would come like Moshe, because it says Tishma'on, listen to him. And that word is Tav with the name Shimon. Tishma'on, Shimon, listen to him. Shimon means to listen. So we've got this prayer, Nishmat Kol Chai prayer, which is spoken every Shabbat and festival, that according to Judaism was written by Shimon Kefa, that could be somehow related to Shimon ben Hillel. We certainly know it's somebody very significant, connected to the early believers, the early church. And it's called Shochen ad Marom Wakadosh Nishmat. He who dwells in eternity, exalted and holy. The next word to that is his name. And then the prayer is called Nishmat after Nishmat Kol Chai. If you add those together with this that's taken from the prayer, He who dwells in eternity, exalted and holy is His name. And I've gone through this before, I've done teachings on this Nishmat Kol Chai prayer. Very significant prayer that needs to be spoken, prayed often. It's a very, very, very powerful prayer. And really it definitely feels like it's written by somebody very, very holy, and it feels a lot like it could be definitely somebody who's anointed with the spirit of Mashiach, Yeshua. There's no question in mind, it's an anointed prayer, it's an anointed level, it's a bigger perspective, talking about every tongue confess, every knee shall bow, and loads of wonderful, beautiful words in there. Okay, so the initial letters of that spell Shimon. So again, we've got Y. And we can see here that if we take the regular and the ordinal, it comes to 2,192, which is exactly the same as the regular of For out of Zion shall Torah come forth, the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And it's exactly related to the two concepts of Shimon ben Hillel Shammai the elder, and exactly related to this, angel of the Lord. You got to start to ask why. Why are all these things so perfectly linked? And by the way, when it says Shochen ad Marom wa Kodesh, the next word is Shemo, his name. The regular and the ordinal added together come to 386, which is Yeshua. Okay. The regular 346 of his name, Shemo, comes to Od Yosef Chai, Yosef is still alive. The regular and the ordinal of that, 254 plus 92, as we can see here, 346 is exactly related to Shemo. So there's all these very powerful connections. We've got to start to make them now. Then you've got this, Shemen Mishchat Kodesh, the holy anointing oil. Okay, the holy anointing oil represents the secrets of the Torah as well, and this holy anointing oil was kept in the Holy of Holies. As you can see here, the regular is 1,542, the ordinal is 156. The ordinal is 156, is exactly the same as Yosef, exactly the same as Zion. Add them together, they come to 1,698, which is 2 times 849. Wait till we see what that is. However, the Mispar Gadol of that, holy anointing oil, is 2,192. Exactly the same as the Nishmat Kol Chai prayer that spells out Shimon, exactly the same as out of Zion, the Torah shall come forth, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem, and then exactly connected to all this, the concept of the angel of the Lord and this holy Zugoth, which we know was significant. We need to know why they were significant, why they're connected to this concept of the holy anointing oil. This holy anointing oil, by the way, in the Zohar is called Shimon Bar Yochai, the writer of the Zohar, another important Shimon that we need to connect to. The inner dimension of the Torah, the true Kabbalah, which has been hijacked by the concept of Metatron and Ein Sof, which is not true Kabbalah. And without that, we've no Peshat, we've no literal interpretation of the Torah. So this 849, which is connected to the holy anointing oil, is also the filling out of Yonah, where the Vav is filled with an Aleph. Okay? Comes to 849. It's also Tisha B'Av, the day that the temple was destroyed. The day that revealed who the true Mashiach was. Why did it reveal who the true Mashiach did? I did a teaching on this because in Tisha B'Av the words of Yeshua were fully fulfilled and proven that he was a faithful prophet. Why? Because he gave the believers in Yeshua advice. If you see this, flee. Get out of Jerusalem. They got out of Jerusalem when the siege was lifted. Can't go into details now, but I did a teaching on Tisha B'Av. So before Tisha B'Av occurred, there was a siege lifted on Jerusalem, and in that siege lift, the believers in Yeshua all fled to a place called Pella, which means wondrous or miracle. You know, like as in Pella Yowet's wonderful counselor. Okay, so they all went to Pella. None of them was killed. When Jerusalem was sacked, those that didn't believe in Yeshua perished. But at the same time, once that temple was destroyed, the words of, they never thought that temple would be destroyed. They thought that was it. When the temple was destroyed, the words of Yeshua were fulfilled at that point, and plus a great salvation was revealed, because all the believers in Yeshua were saved, yet all the people that didn't believe him perished on Tisha B'Av, the destruction of the temple. Okay? We can see then Tisha B'Av, he's got the same gematria as Yeshua Mashiach, the regular order of Yeshua Mashiach. So we know he was, and it says, the sages say the Mashiach will be born, i.e. revealed or resurrected from the dead on Tisha B'Av. And we can see it's the exact same gematria. The exact same gematria Tisha B'Av as Yeshua Mashiach, which is also the exact same gematria as the filling out of Yonah, which we're told the only sign to a wicked and adulterous generation is a sign of Yonah. That's a sign of Mashiach Yeshua. And it's connected to the concept of the holy anointing oil, which is connected to the concept of the secret inner dimension of the Torah, which we are told by Vilna Gaon is the concept of Mashiach ben Yosef. What have we got there instead? Well, we've got this angel there instead, haven't we? Metatron and Ein Sof. Lies. Some truth, some lie. We've got to be able to sort the truth from the lie. That's our job. I'm not going to go through this 230 days. It's just gone on too long. But okay, so I'm not going to go through that slide because I have gone through it before quite a number of times. It's just really talking about the 5 aspects of Mashiach, relating that to, it's relating it to Daniel, something in Daniel. I think what I'll do is I'll just show it for you. I'm not going to go through any of it, but I'll put it up, and if you want to have a look at it yourself, you can have a look at it. Okay, so you're going to have to work through that yourself. It's very, very interesting, as you can see, because it's connected to the whole concept of blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. It's all colour coordinated, but it's also connected to the 5 aspects of Mashiach that represent the 5 aspects of his name, and it's all related back to this 2300, and the only ones shall be exonerated from Daniel 8:14, and I'll leave that with you. You can, it's all colour coordinated, so if you want to pause it and go through that yourself, you'll see that again there's Shemite involved here, the Prince of the world, and blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, who we know who that is. And that whole psalm, by the way, Psalm 119, is all related to the concept of Mashiach ben Yosef. And with that, I'll say shalom. Please share and subscribe, and thank you for listening.